Buckner, Coleman, Coleman, Cook, Coram, Danielson, Donovan, Donovan,
Donovan, I called her twice. She's not here.
Donovan,
Excused.
Finberg, Fields,
Excused.
Gardner, Janal, Gonzalez, Hanson, Heisey, Holbert, Hawkes Lewis, Kirkmeyer, Colker, Lee, Liston, Lundeen, Moreno, Pedersen, Priola, Rankin, Rodriguez, Scott, Simpson, Smallwood, Sonnenberg,
Morning, David.
Story, Winter, Woodward,
Excused.
Woodward?
Zenzinger,
So I don't see Donovan or.
Donovan,
We had her as excused, so still waiting. Donovan and Fields. Okay. We called, she told me to call Donovan. Let's proceed. Okay, so then I'm to you then, right?
Mr. President,
Here. The morning roll call is with 32 present, 0 absent, 3 excused. We have a quorum. Would the good senator from Denver please lead us in the Pledge of Allegiance?
Thank you, Mr. President. Members, please join me in saying the pledge. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Please add Senator Donovan to the roll call.
Thank you. Sorry, guys.
Approval of the journal. Senator Hawkes Lewis.
Thank you, Mr. President. I move the reading of the Journal of Friday, April 30th, 2021 be dispensed with and the journal be approved and as corrected by the Secretary.
You have heard the motion. All those in favor say aye. All those opposed, no. The ayes have it. The motion is adopted. Senate Services.
May 3rd, correctly enroll Senate Bill 32, 63, 95, 106, 118, 185, 202, 203, 204, 231, 232, correctly revised. House Bills 1016, 1056, 1103, 1114, 1117, 1132, 1113, 1132, 1139, 1151, 1186, 1212, 1222, 1231, 1236, and 1249. Correctly re-revised House Bills 1167 and 1241, correctly enrolled Senate Bill 135 and 205.
Third reading of bills. Consent calendar. Will the clerk please read all the bills listed on the third reading consent calendar?
House Bill 1139 by Representative McCluskey and Senator Rankin concerning the acquisition of forms of identification from the Department of Revenue and in connection therewith facilitating the renewal of driver's licenses by identification cards by electronic means, facilitating the renewal of driver's licenses and identification cards by other individuals, and allowing certain individuals to sign a driving log attesting that a minor driver with an instruction permit has completed a minimum number of driving hours. House Bill 1114 by Representatives McCormick and Bradfield and Senators Hawkins Lewis concerning the provision of internet service by a school district to enable individuals associated within the district to access a school district network. House Bill 1151 by Representative McLaughlin and Catlin and Senators Quorum concerning allowing a federally recognized Indian tribe to certify its own foster home. House Bill 1249 by Representative Robertson, Michelson, Janae, and Senators Rodriguez and Smallwood concerning the repeal of the requirement that the state auditor conduct audits of the portion of the limited gaming fund that is transferred to the state historical funds for the preservation of certain gaming cities. House Bill 1222 by Representatives Valdez A. and Van Winkle and Senators Smallwood and Winter concerning aligning local government authority regulations to expand opportunities to access child care and family child care homes. House Bill 1236 by Representatives Satone and Baisley and Senators Bridges and Priola concerning the modification of certain statutory provisions to reflect a certain state information technology environment. House Bill 1231 by Representatives Ortiz and Lynch and Senators Fields and Bridges concerning the United States Space Force and in connection therewith authorizing the Colorado Space National Guard and including the United States Space Force and statutory references to the branch of the United States Armed Forces. Senate Bill 32 by Senators Donovan and Representative Ortiz concerning establishing a mobile veteran support unit grant program in connection therewith making an appropriation. Senate Bill 63 by Senators Sonnenberg and Fields and Representatives Hooton and Pelton concerning an expansion of the ability of existing associations consisting of multiple employers to offer health care benefits to members of the association in connection therewith making an appropriation. Senate Bill 95 by Senators Danielson and Representative Ricks concerning the continuation of the Employment First Advisory Partnership and in connection with implementing the recommendation contained in the 2020 Census Report by the Department of Regulatory Agencies and creating a hiring preference pilot program for people with disabilities. Senate Bill 106 by Senators Coleman and Priola and Representatives McLaughlin and Basie concerning measures to improve successful transitions from high school to post-high school training and in connection with making an appropriation. Senate Bill 118 by Senators Janal and Gardner and Representatives Pelton and Snyder concerning the creation of an alternative response pilot program for county departments of human or social services to adjust the report of mistreatment and at-risk an adult and in connection with making an appropriation. Senate Bill 185 by Senators Zanzinger and Rankin and Representatives McLaughlin and McCluskey concerning supporting the educated workforce in Colorado and in connection with making an appropriation. Senate Bill 202 by Senator Moreno and Lundin and Representatives Sirota and Larson concerning a general fund transfer to public school capital construction system fund for the purpose of providing grants for public school air quality improvement project and in connection with making an appropriation. Senate Bill 203 by Senators Bridges and Simpson, Representative Valdez D. and Pelton concerning an appropriation to the Department of Agriculture for the Colorado Proud Program. Senate Bill 204 by Senators Donovan and Rankin and Representative Young and Van Bever concerning an appropriation to the Department of Local Affairs for the Rural Economic Development Initiative Grant Program. Senate Bill 231 by Senator Story and Heisey and Representatives Hooton and Weissman concerning a transfer of money from the General Fund to the Energy Fund to finance a weatherization assistance program of the Colorado Energy Office. Senate Bill 232 by Senators Zenzinger and Kirkmeyer and Representatives Kipp and Byrd concerning an appropriation to the Department of Higher Education for the Colorado and Opportunity Scholarship Initiatives Displaced Workers Grant.
Will the clerk please add Senator Fields to the roll call? Mr. Majority Leader.
Thank you, Mr. President. I move the passage of all the bills on third reading of Bills Consent Calendar, which includes House Bills 1139, 1114, 1151, 1249, 1222, 1236, 1231, and Senate Bills 32, 63, 95, 106, 118, 185, 202, 203, 204, 231, and 232.
Is there any discussion on any of the bills listed under the motion? Are there any no votes on any of the bills listed? Mr. Minority Leader.
Thank you, Mr. President. I ask to be recorded as a no vote on Senate Bill 32, Senate Bill 95, and House Bill 1114.
Minority Leader will record as a no vote on the following bills. Senator Smallwood.
Good morning, Mr. President. I request to be recorded as a no vote on House Bill 1114.
Senator Smallwood will be recorded as a no vote on House Bill 1114. Senator Lundin.
Good morning, Mr. President. I request that I be recorded as a no vote on House Bill 1114.
No, but it's too slow. Okay, so keep it slow, and then you get it, right? Like that? Okay. I can do this just too slow. And you just do that. Okay. Okay. Yes.
Senator Lundin will be recorded as a no vote on House Bill 1114. Senator Sonnenberg.
Thank you, Mr. President. Thank you, Mr. President. I ask to be recorded as a no vote on House Bill 1114 and Senate Bill 95.
Senator Sonnenberg will be recorded as a no vote on House Bill 1114 and Senate Bill 95. Senator Liston.
Thank you, Mr. President. I wish to be recorded as a no vote on House Bill 1114.
Senator Liston will be recorded as a no vote on House Bill 1114. Senator Kirkmeyer.
Thank you, Mr. President. I wish to be recorded as a no vote on Senate Bill 95.
Senator Kirkmeyer will be recorded as a no vote on Senate Bill 095. With 34 ayes, 0 noes, 0 absent, and 1 excuse, House Bill 1139 is passed. Co-sponsors. Senators Bridges, Winter, Heisey, Scott, Janal, Kolker, Moreno, Sonnenberg, Simpson, Priola, Cook, Gonzalez, Smallwood, Gardner, Buckner, Lee, Lundin, Kirkmeyer, Hanson. Please add the President. With a vote of 29 ayes, 5 no votes, 0 absent, and 1 excuse, House Bill 1114 is passed. Co-sponsors. Mr. Majority Leader, Senators Danielson, Janal, Winter, Story, Moreno, Bridges, Zenzinger, Hanson, Pedersen, Buckner, Lee, Gonzalez, Kolker. Please add the President. With a vote of 34 ayes, 0 noes, 0 absent, and 1 excuse, House Bill 1151 is passed. Co-sponsors. Senators Danielson, Janal, Kolker, Cook, Scott, Moreno, Lee, Kirkmeyer, Winter, Rodriguez, Smallwood, Hawkes Lewis, Priola, Donovan, Story, Gonzalez, Pedersen, Rankin, Coleman, Buckner, Fields. Please add the President. And Senator Sonnenberg. With a vote of 34 ayes, 0 noes, 0 absent, 1 excuse, House Bill 1249 is passed. Co-sponsors. Senator Gonzalez. With a vote of 34 ayes, 0 noes, 0 absent, and 1 excuse, House Bill, with a vote of 34 ayes, 0 noes, 0 absent, 1 excuse, House Bill 1222 is passed. Co-sponsors. Senators Danielson, Cook, Moreno, Sonnenberg, Simpson, Hawkes Lewis, Janal, Bridges, Heisey, Scott, Kolker, Pedersen, Kirkmeyer, Liston, Zenzinger, Story, Gonzalez, Priola, Fields, Buckner, Lee, Rankin. Please add the President. With a vote of 34 ayes, 0 noes, 0 absent, 1 excuse, House Bill 1236 is passed. Co-sponsors: Senators Rankin, Colker, with a vote of 34 ayes, 0 noes, 0 absent, 1 excuse, House Bill 1231 is passed. Co-sponsors: Mr. Minority Leader, Senators Colker, Story, Danielson, Cook, Simpson, Scott, Sonnenberg, Winter, Patterson, Hanson, Kirkmeyer, Heisey, Lundin, Hawkes Lewis, Liston, Priola, Smallwood, Donovan, Janal, please add the President. With a vote of 33 ayes, 1 no vote, 0 absent, 1 excused, Senate Bill 032 is passed. Co-sponsors: Senators Colker, Danielson, Simpson, Hawkes Lewis, Moreno, Winter, Pedersen, Rankin, Buckner, Lee, Zenzinger, Gonzalez, Priola, Janal, Story, Heisey, Bridges, Hanson, please add the President. With a vote of 34 ayes, 0 noes, 0 absent, 1 excused, Senate Bill 063 is passed. Co-sponsors: Senators Janal, Scott, please add the President. Senators Smallwood, Priola. Co-sponsors: Senate Bill 63. Donovan, Buckner, with a vote of 31 ayes, 3 no votes, 0 absent, and 1 excuse, Senate Bill 095 is passed. Co-sponsors: Senators Zenzinger, Janal, Winter, Colker, Moreno, Story, Buckner, Hawkes Lewis, please add the President. With a vote of 34 ayes, 0 noes, 0 absent, 1 excused, Senate Bill 106 is passed. Co-sponsors: Mr. Majority Leader, Senators Danielson, Zenzinger, Hanson, Hawkes Lewis, Moreno, Scott, Rankin, Rodriguez, Gonzalez, Sonnenberg, Story, Pedersen, Winter, Buckner, Lee, Donovan, Smallwood, Simpson, Bridges. Please add the President. With 34 aye votes, 0 noes, 0 absent, 1 excused, Senate Bill 118 is passed. Co-sponsors: Senators Bridges, Cook, Liston, Simpson, Moreno, Lee, Winter, Kirkmeyer, Priola, Pedersen, Buckner, Heisey, Rankin, Smallwood, Scott, Zenzinger, Story, the Minority Leader. Lundin, Gardner. Please have the President. With 34 aye votes, 0 no, 0 absent, and 1 excused, Senate Bill 185 is passed. Co-sponsors, Senators Bridges, Winter, Janal, Danielson, Hanson, Majority Leader, Simpson, Huckus Lewis, Priola, Story, Moreno, Rodriguez, Lundin, Donovan, Colker, Corum, Kirkmeyer, Pedersen, Buckner, Scott, Sonnenberg, Fields, Gonzalez, Lee. Please have the President. With a vote of 34 ayes, 0 noes, 0 absent, and 1 excused, Senate Bill 202 is passed. Co-sponsors, Mr. Majority Leader, Senators Bridges, Hanson, Story, Danielson, Winter, Simpson, Kirkmeyer, Priola, Lee, Gonzalez, Heisey, Rankin, Pedersen, Buckner, Sonnenberg, Huckus Lewis, Donovan, Cook, Janal, Colker, Scott. Please have the President. With a vote of 34 ayes, 0 noes, 0 absent, 1 excused, Senate Bill 203 is passed. Co-sponsors, Senators Gonzalez, Colker, Danielson, Kirkmeyer, Liston, Priola, Scott, Sonnenberg, Moreno, Lee, Huckus Lewis, Pedersen, Buckner, Winter, Corum, Story, Cook, Janal, Donovan, Rankin, Majority Leader. Please have the President. With a vote of 34 ayes, 0 noes, 0 absent, 1 excused, Senate Bill 204 is passed. Co-sponsors, Senators Simpson, Danielson, Bridges, Priola, Corum, Scott, Sonnenberg, Zenzinger, Moreno, Winter, Hanson, Heisey, Janal, Kirkmeyer, Story, Gonzalez, Lundin, Pedersen, Liston, the Majority Leader, Buckner, Lee. Please have the President. With a vote of 34 ayes, 0 noes, 0 absent, 1 excused, Senate Bill 231 is passed. Co-sponsors, Senators Hanson, the Majority Leader, Janal, Moreno, Colker, Gonzalez, Simpson, Pedersen, Buckner, Lee, Winter, Bridges, Priola, Donovan, Fields, Huckus Lewis, Zenzinger. Please add the president. With a vote of 34 ayes, 0 noes, 0 absent, 1 excused, Senate Bill 232 is passed. Co-sponsors, Senators Bridges, Majority Leader, Hawkins Lewis, Janal, Winter, Lee, Moreno, Danielson, Story, Gonzalez, Buckner, Fields, Donovan, Pedersen, Sonnenberg, Priola. Please add the president.
Give them too much time. Gotcha. It's okay, give them time to really think this one over.
Third reading of bill's final passage. Will the clerk please read the title to House Bill 1186?
House Bill 1186 by Representative Gray and Sullivan, Senators Winter and Bridges, concerning relieving the Regional Transportation District of statutory restrictions related to the district's operations.
Senator Winter.
Thank you, Mr. President. We move House Bill 1186 on third reading and final passage.
The motion is the passage of House Bill 1186 on third reading and final passage. Are there any no votes? Mr. Minority Leader. Is there any discussion? Excuse me. Mr. Minority Leader.
Thank you, Mr. President. I will be a no vote on 1186. My district, the district that I represent, sorry to make that possessive, the district that I represent straddles the geographic area that RTD covers. Where I live in northern Douglas County, we are in the RTD district. Just south of me is the line between there and people who do not live in the district. So I hear from constituents who are very supportive from RTD, and I've said before, I hear from constituents who think we could abolish RTD and sell off their assets and use that to balance the state budget. Not true. They're a separate governmental jurisdiction with their own taxing authority, which escapes the attention or the understanding of a lot of people, because I'm sure that public transportation works differently in other states, and as people move here, they experience the way we do it differently. But to take away these restrictions, for instance, on contract vehicle services, people understand, whether they understand intimately how RTD works and how they fund themselves or not, they do understand what a bus or a train or some other vehicle with RTD on the side, they understand that's RTD. To contract with these services outside of RTD, I think, could provide some flexibility. I understand that, but certainly for people who are paying for those things, I don't think they'll necessarily understand who controls that vehicle. Fares. This is the primary reason that I oppose this bill. The bill repeals the requirement that 30% of RTD's operating costs be covered by fare revenue. Not F-A-I-R, but F-A-R-E. The amount of money that people pay to ride that bus or ride that train. Now, I don't live in the city of Lone Tree, but Lone Tree invested heavily and supported the extension of RTD light rail beyond Park Meadow Mall and Lincoln Avenue out to Ridgegate. Primarily, I think that parking garage was intended for people driving north on I-25 from places like Colorado Springs. Okay. Well, now I have an RTD train that runs right past my neighborhood, and I tell you what, it's empty. Most of those trains don't have anybody on them. And clever marketing, I'm a marketing professional, I understand this, they have one-way decals now on the trains. So you can see out, you don't get close claustrophobic, but it makes it much more difficult to see in. If people aren't paying to ride public transportation in the portion of the district that I represent that's included in RTD, I certainly don't support waiving the requirement for RTD to get at least 30%, not 100%, 30% of their revenue from the fares that people are paying to ride those things. We are paying the people who don't pay those fares, we are paying for empty buses and trains to operate. And I think it's ridiculous that we would take that requirement away from RTD. Ask for a no vote.
There will be no clapping from the gallery, please. Is there further discussion? Seeing none, the motion before the body is the passage of House Bill 1186 on third reading and final passage. Are there any no votes? Senators Cook, Kirkmeyer, Lundin, Gardner, Liston, Smallwood, the Minority Leader, Rankin, Sonnenberg, Scott, Simpson, with 23 ayes, 11 no votes, 0 absent, and 1 excuse, House Bill 1186 is passed. Co-sponsors, Senators Hansen, Gonzalez, Priola, Moreno, Pedersen, will the clerk please read the title of House Bill 1067?
1056.
1056.
Excuse me. Will the clerk please read the title of the House Bill 1056?
House Bill 1056 by Representative Pelton and Senators Hansen concerning public projects supervised by the Department of Transportation that are subject to the Construction Bidding for Public Projects Act.
Senator Hansen.
Thank you, Mr. President. I move House Bill 1056 on third reading and final passage.
Is there any discussion? Seeing none, the motion before the body is passage of House Bill 1056 on third reading and final passage. Are there any no votes? Mr. Minority Leader, Senators Gardner, Lundin, Scott, Cook, Liston, Smallwood, Sonnenberg, Kirkmeyer, with 25 ayes, 9 no votes, 0 absent, and 1 excuse, House Bill 1056 is passed. Co-sponsors. Senator Moreno, Lee, will the clerk please read the title to House Bill 1132?
House Bill 1132 by Representatives Amabali and Baisley and Senator Story concerning authorized distribution from the Local Government Limited Gaming Impact Fund.
Senator Story.
Thank you, Mr. President. I move House Bill 1132 on third reading and final passage.
Is there any discussion? Seeing none, the motion before the body is passage of House Bill 1132 on third reading and final passage. Are there any no votes? Mr. Minority Leader, Senators Heisey, Gardner, Kirkmeyer, Lundin, Cook, Sonnenberg, Scott, Smallwood, Simpson. With 24 aye votes, 10 no votes, 0 absent, and 1 excused, House Bill 1132 is passed. Co-sponsors. Will the clerk please read the title of House Bill 1117?
House Bill 1117 by Representative Lantina and Gonzalez Gutierrez and Senators Gonzalez and Rodriguez concerning the ability of local governments to promote the development of new affordable housing units pursuant to their existing authority to regulate land uses within their territorial boundaries.
Senator Rodriguez.
Thank you, Mr. President. I move House Bill 1117 on third reading and final passage.
Is there any discussion? Seeing none, the motion before the body is the passage of House Bill 1117 on third reading and final passage. Are there any no votes? Senators Heisey, Simpson, Minority Leader, Rankin, Smallwood, Lundin, Cook, Gardner, Liston, Kirkmeyer, Scott, Sonnenberg. With 22 aye votes, 12 no votes, 0 absent, and 1 excused, House Bill 1117 is passed. Co-sponsors. Senators Winter, Danielson, Story, Moreno, Pedersen, Kolker, Lee, Buckner, Hawkes Lewis, Fields. Will the clerk please read the title to House Bill 1212?
House Bill 1212 by Representatives Soper and Escar and Senators Quorum and Fields concerning the diversity of members appointed by the governor to boards authorized by the General Assembly.
Senator Quorum.
Thank you, Mr. President. We move House Bill 1212. Ask for an aye vote.
Is there further discussion? Senator Quorum.
Thank you, Mr. President. I think this is a very important bill. I'm sure the President and the Majority Leader have forgotten, but last day, we had a little conversation over appointments. And I want to bring you back to that time with a smile on my face. But at that time, that day, we had 51 appointments. 2 of those appointments, residents, was east of I-25. 1 in Parker and 1 in Brighton. And the appointments have been very centrally located as far as geographic and diversity. And I think it is truly important that we actually keep an eye on these and represent that all of these appointments have the ability, no matter where you live around the state, to participate in. And so I think it's important. I think it's one of our jobs in the Senate that, frankly, we have been lax on. Because we look at it, it goes to a committee and it says unanimous and comes out for consent. But members, that is not good enough. These are 4-year appointments. Can definitely direct how a department is managed, and leaving out minority groups and groups that live, as an example, where I do 300 miles away. So I think it's important that we take this, we send a message to the first floor that we are doing our job. Thank you. Ask for an aye vote.
Is there further discussion? Senator Fields.
Thank you, Mr. President, and I just stand in strong support with my colleague here as we present this bill, House Bill 1212, because diversity is our strength. And we know that the administration has always worked extremely hard to make sure that there's diversity on our boards and commissions, but sometimes it does not happen. So what this bill does, it puts it in statute that there's going to be an intent behind making sure that we have every single demographic represented on boards and commissions. So members, please vote yes on 2112. 2021. Thank
Is
you.
there further discussion? Seeing none, the motion before the body is the passage of House Bill 1212 on third reading and final passage. Are there any no votes? Senators Lundin, Gardner, the minority leader. With 31 ayes, 3 no votes, 0 absent, and 1 excuse, House Bill 1212 is passed. Co-sponsors, Senators Zenzinger, Danielson, Buckner, Simpson, Rankin, Pedersen, Moreno, Lee, Smallwood. Winter, Hawkes Lewis, Janhal, Gonzalez, Story. Please add the president. Will the clerk please read the title of House Bill 1016?
House Bill 1016 by Representatives Ortiz and Linson, Senators Garcia and Gardner, concerning the authority to transfer jurisdiction of a veteran defendant's case to a jurisdiction within a veteran specialty court.
Senator Gardner.
Thank you, Mr. President. I move House Bill 1016 on third reading and final passage.
Is there any discussion? Seeing none, the motion before the body is passage of House Bill 1016 on third reading and final passage. Are there any no votes? Mr. Minority Leader. Senator Lundy. With 32 aye votes, 2 no votes, 0 absent, 1 excuse, House Bill 1016 is passed. Co-sponsors, Senators Donovan, Bridges, Janal, Cook, Sonnenberg, Danielson, Lee, Fields, Simpson, Heisey, Kirkmeyer, Priola, Gonzalez, Buckner, Winter, Hawkes Lewis, Liston, Story, Hanson, Rankin, Scott, Moreno, Colker.
Just say why you're supporting it, I'll say really quickly.
Will the clerk please read the title of House Bill 1103?
House Bill 1103 by Representatives Cutter and McLaughlin and Senators Pedersen and Quorum, concerning implementing the recommendations of the Media Literacy Advisory Committee in Elementary and Secondary Education created pursuant to House Bill 191110.
Senator Quorum.
Thank you, Mr. President. I move House Bill 1103 on third reading and final passage.
Is there any discussion? Mr. Minority Leader.
Oh, dang.
Thank you, Mr. President. I do want to share some comments on 1103. Did speak against the bill on second reading, and I want to assure my friends from Jefferson County and my good friend from Montrose, I don't suspect any bad motive at all. We're not to question motives. But to go back to the First Amendment of the United States Constitution and also the state constitution in Article 2, the Bill of Rights, when it addresses our freedom of speech, it talks about us, the government, we the legislature, not passing legislation that abridges speech. And this puts government, House Bill 1103 puts government exactly in that position. So even if it's done correctly, I think it's doing that. So I don't mean to disparage my friends at all. I understand the motivation to teach kids well. And part of that today is to understand the source of news, information, truth. One of the things that I encourage people in politics frequently is don't get outraged, learn what is true, and hold on to that. Because so much in politics is designed to just get people outraged. And often it isn't true. In fact, sometimes whatever they're outraged about doesn't even exist. It's not an interpretation of an opinion, it's about things that don't even exist. And I expressed on second reading that as a parent, I take that responsibility, have taken that responsibility very seriously. I'm proud that I have two sons who question things, who really decide for themselves whether they'll agree or disagree with whatever the topic is, that they're not easily led astray. And that's something that I take very seriously as a parent, and I encourage all parents to do that. I encourage teachers to do that. I encourage you as legislators to do that. But where I have to draw the line, and the reason that I'm a no vote on 1103, that handing that responsibility over to government is precisely why the founders of our nation put that in the Bill of Rights, the first one of the 10. Don't abridge this. Government shouldn't be in the business of deciding what speech is permitted and what speech shouldn't be. Don't abridge that. I use the comparison of the dictionary. As a child, my parents had that unabridged Webster's dictionary, and it was huge. It was the largest book in our house. But my mom especially encouraged me to read it and try to find a word every day I didn't understand. Now, I certainly didn't do that every day. But one of the words she helped me understand was abridged versus unabridged. The unabridged, all of the words are there. The abridged dictionary, gosh, you could carry one of those around in your pocket because they're the more commonly used words. And our state constitution uses that word. Don't, government, us, don't abridge the number of words, the speech that are used. And again, I don't point the finger at the sponsors. I'm concerned that if this becomes law, that the reference library that's available over at CDE, or what a teacher, what a school district decides because they're in charge of instruction, but this opens the door for governmental jurisdictions, whether it is the school district or a school chartered by parents in a district or the Charter Institute or the Colorado Department of Education, all forms of government. It puts them specifically in the role of deciding what words will be abridged, what news sources will be abridged. And our state constitution says, at least the way I read it, it says very clearly, don't do that. So I'll be a no vote. Thank you, Mr. President.
Further discussion. Senator Lundin.
Thank you, Mr. President. I believe you've just heard an eloquent argument around the First Amendment and how this bill trips over perhaps the First Amendment. I would say that the bill has three fatal flaws, and they all kind of center around this idea of turning our back on a founding principle, e pluribus unum, from many one. The first fatal flaw the bill has, in my opinion, is it pulls us away in K-12 public education from the core mission. Right now, in grades 3 through 8, the last CMAS, Colorado Measures of Academic Success test, we had more than half of Colorado's students testing at below grade level. We should be focused on our core mission. I believe this bill distracts from that. Fatal flaw number one. Second fatal flaw, and this goes to the heart of the bill, in my opinion, creates an anti-diversity of thought mechanism, and it does it through this creation of a state-controlled resource bank. The idea that the state becomes the arbiter of the information that you should gather. We should, I think, promote a diversity of thought. We should promote a diversity of information sources. We should promote a diversity of activity and interaction in all the small libraries, the mid-sized libraries, and the large libraries, and the biggest library of all, the internet. The third fatal flaw is the bill essentially creates what will be a statewide, or have the effect of creating a statewide core curriculum on this matter, which is completely inappropriate. We talked at length on seconds about how once upon a time we had 3,000 school districts so that every neighborhood could make sure that they had the opportunity to participate in what the curriculum looked like in their neighborhood. Now we have 178 districts, keeping the curriculum close to the people. It's a whole lot easier to go to your local school board meeting on Thursday night than it is to get yourself up to Denver at the right time to see how the state is intruding into what the curriculum that your students are studying might be. This bill leans heavily into that. At its core, and the most challenging element about the bill, is this bill sets itself up to be the arbiter of truth. And truth is something that we should all seek from every source we possibly can. So I oppose this bill for those three fatal flaws, and also because this bill sets itself up to do something states should never do, and that is to seek the position of the arbiter of truth. Thank you, Mr. President.
Senator Corn.
Thank you, Mr. President. Did you all watch the Kentucky Derby on Saturday? Well, I'll tell you what, I'm from a horse racing background, and I'll tell you why horse racing got started. It's a difference of opinion. And I want to thank the senator from Monmouth and the minority leader for their statements. Because frankly, I have to agree with a lot of it. But the problem is, that is exactly what is happening right now. It is monitored. Restrictions put on. If teaching critical thinking and able to decide the difference between fact and fiction is wrong, count me wrong every time. Every time. You all get emails each and every day. And your question is, where did this come from? How did this happen? It's concerning to me that we are in a nation that one group can get their message out and the other can't. The other one cannot get their message. It happens each and every day. As I was saying, I'm a horse race guy. I watched a race a couple of weeks ago, the Wood Memorial, and a monster was born on that day. A first-time starter beat stakes horses by 13.5 lengths. It's an exciting race to watch. I went back to watch it again yesterday because I was so impressed with this horse. But it says this video is no longer available because Facebook does not agree with the content. This is what is happening. Our children are being exposed to information each and every day. 8.5 hours is the average child on social media today. You're all 5.5 hours. We're probably more than that. And you read stuff and say, how can this be true? How can this be true? If we do not teach our children critical thinking, the problem gets worse. And I don't see this as a government shutdown. The bill says that the goal is to educate, teach critical thinking without indoctrination. Is that wrong? If it is, I always want to be wrong. I think this is an important bill. And, you know, we pass bills each and every year. And we come back and say, you know what, that needs tweaked. And frankly, this bill will probably need tweaked. But it is a start. I haven't seen a lot of us in this room setting up. We've talked about this for years. But until now, nobody's come forward and said, you know what, we got to correct this. Is it a perfect bill? Absolutely not. It is a start. And to look for a solution is not wrong. And I've looked at the word solution many, many times. And nowhere in that word can I find the word no. No is not a solution. Sometimes you have to get out of your comfort zone and say, you know what we're doing is not right. This may not be right, but we've started the race. It's the beginning of the race, not the end. Ask for an aye vote.
Senator Priola.
Thank you, Mr. President. Members, I rise in support of House Bill 1103, and I'm going to tell you a little bit why. Part of it is philosophy, and part of it is personal. One of the reasons I support education reform down here and high standards is I truly believe that our democracy and republic depends on the next generation being informed and thinking with critical thinking skills. But on a personal level, my wife and I have spent the last 6 or 12 months dealing with some issues with one of our kids based on an app that I've recently realized was promoted by a Russian oligarch. This app he had used for 4 to 5 years, and my wife and I thought it was simply, junior high humor stuff. But what I think we need to understand as a body is that our enemies, our foreign enemies, are trying to use many of our freedoms against us. And we need to be cognizant of that, and where prudent and where measured, try to inform especially the younger generations of how they're being played. Thank you.
Senator Pedersen.
Thank you, Mr. President. Members, this is a small step, but an incredibly important bill in this time. This only implements the recommendations that came out of a policy that we passed. We passed the Media Literacy Advisory Committee. It was made up of members who are experts in this field with diverse backgrounds and experiences and training across the state. And they came up with recommendations on each grade level on what we think that we should actually be teaching our kids to make sure that they are critical thinkers. This only goes into our standards. This does not dictate what curriculum is taught for any school district. It provides an optional resource bank. There's been a lot of attention on the resource bank. This is just optional, but could be a great resource if you choose to utilize it because of the experts that have come together, because they care deeply about addressing the needs in our state and the gap in our system. What this bill, one of the people who testified, I thought, really summed up the importance of this bill perfectly. His name is Doug Bell, and he talked about how he was here for years and reported on public servants in the Capitol. He had students from MSU who were part of his class. And he said the most important piece about teaching media literacy was actually teaching students how our system works to begin with. Most people, unfortunately, who graduate are unaware. You all get emails thinking that we go to DC and they call you a congressperson. Many people don't actually know the fundamental system of government, how bills are passed. He said that that was one of the most important pieces of that class. but also the ability to think critically about the information that they're getting, about the standards that they report on. And those standards that are put in journalism do not exist for anyone who can write whatever that they want, put it on the internet, and if it has the right title, it feeds into somebody's bias. Unfortunately, we do not have a way of, this is not about controlling information, this is about making sure that people think critically when they do see that headline, when they actually look at where those news sources were coming from, or if there are any sources at all. You know, I think about how quickly the world is changing. I look at my dad. He believes anything that comes in an email because it must be real. It's on the internet, it must be real. My dad is one of the people who actually believes in QAnon. It's hard to admit that. I love my father. But he lacked being taught those critical thinking skills in a changing time. Sorry, I didn't want to get emotional about that, but I think about how radicalized our country has become because we have algorithms that feed us these sources. We don't actually have to contemplate other people's opinions or views. We don't have to differentiate between what an opinion piece is versus what is actual fact. It is a scary time. We need to be teaching critical thinking skills. And this has been weaponized not only in this country by threats internationally, this is also happening in other countries. This is something that is a global concern. And when you meet with leaders across the nation, when I think about a presentation I was a part of around this, about Israel, and making sure that they are a country that is protected in the future. They see the emerging technologies and the inability to differentiate between fact and fiction as the greatest threat to their country. So this is not just our United States problem. This is a global problem. Our kids need to be armed with the ability to think critically about the information that they're getting, and that is all this is. And so I ask for your support. We're way far behind. This is a small step forward, and I hope that you will join me in voting yes on this bill.
Senator Gardner.
Thank you, Mr. President. Colleagues, people of Colorado. Media literacy. Probably a phrase that none of us had heard 10 or 15 years ago, I'm guessing. But now it's on everyone's tongue. And who would be against media literacy? It's like, who's in favor of illiteracy? So no one would be in favor of media illiteracy. But media literacy is a far more subjective term than simple literacy. My colleague from Monument offered a very coherent 3 points about what's wrong with this bill. Not because I can tell you from personal knowledge he's opposed to media literacy, quite the contrary. And I'm opposed to this bill, not because I'm opposed to media literacy. In fact, I walk around with some amount of elevated blood pressure on a daily basis because of the media illiteracy. But that's not new. It existed 40 years ago. So So you would say to me, well, high time for this bill. I'm going to say something that might be a bit controversial. I know I never do that, but I may do that this moment. Why would you further entrust to some of the very institutions that are responsible for the media illiteracy that we have today, to somehow give them resources to combat the problem? You say, well, because they don't have the resources. Look, good, capable classroom teachers already know about this. I was taught this in 1970, 1971, 1972. I know many of you were not alive in those times. They were times of their own controversy.